Hi everybody, it's author Sandra Wilson and this is the Kindness Kangaroo Library, and today's story time session features the book Nutshell Regatta. Now a regatta is sort of like a boat race, so that's what we're gonna see, a boat race. What I really like about this book is that it encourages you to explore nature and to use your imagination, so it's so much fun. So I'm glad you're joining us today, and as always, at the end I have an idea for a craft for you to follow so that you can read the story and then do a craft to kind of extend the story and further your imagination and your storytelling skills. Or you can watch the replay on the Kindness Kangaroo Project YouTube channel and do the craft then as well. All right, everybody, here we go. This is Nutshell Regatta by Jonna Laster. You see the drawings? There we go. Grandma said, "Look, up high. The clouds are camping. They're rolling out their sleeping bags. They're adding kindling to their fires. Look at the smoke." She's using her imagination to see what she can see in the clouds. She pointed to the ground. Grandma whispered, "See the dandelions, moon yolks, silver spokes, little puffs of glitter." She and I walked down the steep hill, through pineapple weeds as sweet-smelling as pineapple sherbet on a pineapple breeze. We stood beneath the cherry tree. "This tree has singing leaves," Grandma said. We tilted our heads back to listen. Its leaves are singing. Leaves that were colored with 100 lime green crayons shook. They sang as they lifted and then fell back again. Grandma pointed at the tree's trunk and explained, "Look at the bark, it's gnarled, gray, and hard." She pointed to another part and said, "Where this branch broke off is shaped like the head of a fox." I ran ahead to the pond where the water was bright. Grandma sat on a folding chair while I squatted down close to the water. Horsetail weeds rubbed together, making a swish, swish sound. "Like corduroy pants," said Grandma. We studied the water. Grandma said, "Listen to the pond talking." I heard the plink, plink, and lap, lap, lap noises the pond made with its small waves. Grandma took a handful of nutshells from her sweater pocket. I saw empty peanut and walnut shells and asked, "What are they for?" Grandma smiled. "Not shells, but sloops and sailboats. This is the HMS Goober. Please dig up some clay." I dug under the soft mud at the pond's edge and pulled up a handful of blue clay. Grandma smiled. "Fill each shell with a little clay, about halfway." She looked across the pond. "The breeze is just right. Let's find some sails." We made sails from the dark green mint tree leaves, birch leaves, long iris leaves that bent in half, and jagged gooseberry leaves. "But there aren't any sailors, Grandma. No passengers, deckhands, or crew." "Pitiful," said Grandma. "There are passengers everywhere. We just need to look." By the stand of new mushrooms, I found some small twigs. Grandma nodded. "I thought so. Twig people, many of them. They sunbathed on rocks, hid under ferns, stood at the water's edge. A few shy pebble people joined them. They all gathered round." "There were more twigs than boats, but it's okay because many of the twigs just wanted to float in the shallow water with the tadpoles and water beetles. Others stood in the dirt and cheered. Most of the pebbles wanted to stay on solid ground." Grandma sang out, "Load the boats, ready your crews. The breeze is just right. What a day for a sail." "Swish, swish, swish," murmured the horsetail weeds. "Yeah, yeah," chanted the pebble people. "Yes," yelled a twig adventurer who jumped from the shore and spun in the pond. "Launch," said Grandma. "Cast away." Brave Bert Pebble had given up his foothold on land for a wild ride on the water. Betula, the birch twig, was ready for an adventure on the shining, shimmering pond. Together, they set sail in their peanut shell boat. 2 other boats sank right in the lagoon. Their twig sailors popped up and swam to a lily pad. The other nutshells tilted but bobbed along. Round and round they swirled. The crowd of twigs and pebbles on shore cheered. Grandma and I cheered. Somewhere above us in the tall birch trees, a crow laughed. One boat took the lead, the HMS Goober, a peanut shell sloop. Betula and Bert leaned far to one side. Grandma stood and walked to the pond. Small waves covered the tops of their tennis shoes. She said, "Look at them go! It's a race, a regatta!" "Go, go, go!" shouted the twig fans. "Oh my!" cried the pebbles. The peanut shell boat was headed for certain disaster. It skimmed over the foamy water that spilled across the dam and rushed away through the culvert. It looked as if the HMS Goober would soon be a pile of splinters. Oh my! Atop the foamy waves, a ragged gooseberry leaf sail billowed with the breeze. Betula turned to call farewell. The HMS Goober shot into the air, then dropped back down with a loud splash. Then it sped off over the waterfall. "They're gone," I cried. Before I could say another word, before the twig and pebble crowd could moan and sigh, Grandma said, "Shh, listen, close your eyes and listen." A tiny pebble voice called and echoed from the long culvert, "Yippee! Yip, yip, yippee!" The other boats bumped onto shore. Clouds covered the sun. Soon it would be time to go inside. I looked up at Grandma. I wonder where they are. Where will they end up? Downstream, maybe, all the way to the sea. What an adventure! Grandma smiled. Her eyes twinkled like the very bluest parts of the sky. Breezes brushed across the water. The crow ruffled his feathers and chuckled. Grandma took my hand and assured me, maybe, just maybe, they'll send us a postcard. So there we have it. In this wonderful boat regatta, one boat went so far and over the waterfall and started a whole new adventure, which could be a whole other story, maybe by our author Jonna Laster, or maybe by you. Feel free to carry on the story of the adventure of the pebble and the twig in the peanut shell boat. Okay, this was a great story, and as always, I will post a link so that you can get a copy of it yourself. All right, everybody. So, using your imaginations and your nature exploration, just like in the story, today we're going to need a few items just to do the craft idea. And these items are pretty easy to find if you explore some nature. So we want to have a peanut shell. And I have peanuts that I feed to the squirrels and chipmunks and blue jays, so I was able to take a peanut shell from that. If you don't have peanuts, maybe you have different other shells like walnuts or almonds, or if you go outside you might be able to find some chestnuts or some acorns, or anything that you feel might be able to make some sort of boat, okay? And then we need a few twigs, little twigs, big twigs. I also found these maple keys, which could be used maybe as oars for the boat. Some sails, so we want to find some leaves, some nice good sized leaves for sails, just like in the book there was all sorts of choices for leaves as well. And then I used a little bit of Play-Doh for clay because I didn't have a pond water where I could find some good sturdy clay, so I used a little bit of clay. So what we want to do is we take the peanut shell and then we put in some clay along the bottom, and that's just sort of going to be the hold of our other stuff, so it's kind of our glue, okay? And then I took a big stick and a leaf and I put them together, so very carefully because leaves can tear. So make sure it's a nice thick leaf, and then you make some holes, and then you can thread through your stick so that you've got a leaf and fluff it out a little bit like that. And then you're going to put your leaf, attach it to your clay inside your peanut shell so that you can make your boat. And then you might also want to find if you have a little twigs that you could use for people or a little pebbles, and then you can have your little boat race. So there he goes over the sea, over the waterfall maybe. So that's a lot of fun. Now you could try it if there's some water nearby, and make sure you have an adult with you. and you could try making them float, or maybe you could get a bowl of water and see if they float. As we recall in the book, some of them sank to the bottom and some of them just bobbed over, tipped over a little bit, but it's kind of fun, a little adventure for your little twig people or your little pebble people, and you could have your own regatta and see which boats, maybe which nuts go faster. All right, everybody, thank you for joining me, and I hope to see you again on our next Storytime session.